Investing in Belleville, Ontario. Is it a good idea? If you're looking to expand your investment portfolio or possibly just wondering about buying a single family home and whether it will appreciate over time, today we're going to look at whether Belleville and the surrounding areas is a good place to do that. Hi, my name is Jeremy Tremblay. I'm a realtor here in the Belleville and surrounding areas. Today we're going to look into investments. Specifically, we're going to focus on Belleville and surrounding areas, which include places such as Trenton, Quinte West. We're not going to focus on Prince Edward County. The investments down there are a little bit more unique because of the short-term accommodations, and so we're going to focus more so up here, focusing on those that are wanting to potentially buy specifically their own home. Now, if you don't know this area, I would highly suggest you hit the subscribe button and go check out the other videos I've already put up. I have videos that highlight all the different areas around here, the little different towns. That'll give you a good idea of what's happening here. And then this video, we will answer the question as to whether it's a good place to invest. So the first thing we'll look at is single family homes. The people that are moving here often that are looking for their own home will ask the question as to whether this is a good place in terms of long-term appreciation. I would say a resounding yes. The one thing that is supporting that is, of course, our location. Belleville, this surrounding area, is specifically on Highway 401, Canada's busiest corridor. We have Toronto to the west, we have got Montreal, Ottawa to the east, and these are Canada's largest urban centers. And so, of course, that route along Highway 401 is going to continue to get busier, and any industry that comes specifically to this area is helping to prop up this market. And so there's a lot of safety in that because that's where people are coming. Now, I always caution people, if you're buying a single family home as an investment that you're going to live in, you should be looking over a long time period. If you're looking over the course of a couple of years, it's not really a good idea. That's speculating. You need to look over a 10-year horizon. And in my opinion, this area very much supports the appreciation that will come. Now, the next thing is those that want to buy a single family home as an investment property. And so you might not be living in it, you want to rent it out. This market specifically has grown in the last number of years. So if we compare to Toronto, of course, it is the highest pricing in Canada. And because of that, the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, has grown out. If you look to the west of Toronto, all those cities have over the last decade been growing and expanding to the point where housing is extremely expensive there. So a lot of the investment is now moving east of Toronto, which is where Belleville in the last number of years has come into the picture. Now, of course, that has elevated the average price of a single family home. And the one thing I would caution people if you're wanting to rent a single family home is that we do have a ceiling here with the rent that you're going to be able to obtain. And so you have to look at what you're buying that house for, what the total mortgage payment is, especially with today's very high rates, and all the other costs that might be involved with maintaining a single family home rental. And for the most part, a large part of those are not going to cash flow. And in which case you're really going to be relying on the appreciation that we just talked about, which in my opinion is not a great investment strategy. And so while there are some where you can try and get them cheaper homes and you can kind of do some work to them, so that adds value in itself, and then rent it out, I wouldn't advise that strategy. Now, if you are just looking to put some money somewhere into a single family home and have that rental for the long period, and you're willing to take the fluctuation in your cash flow, then yes, this place might be an opportunity for you. In terms of the ceiling of rents, single family homes here, on average, you're going to see a home rent for around $2,500. $3,000 seems to be the ceiling. There will be some nicer homes where people try and get $3,000 or over $3,000, but that's an extremely hard sell because you have to look at the industry as here as well. We're not extremely high-paying jobs that you would see in Toronto, and so the rents have to match the employment that's available in the area. So those are some things to look at with a single-family home investment. Now, the next thing to consider, which we're seeing a lot more of around in this area, and you've seen a lot more in the larger cities, is single family homes that have apartments attached. We're seeing new builds already where it's a very nice home, looks like a single family home, but they have a side entrance and they have purpose built them with a basement apartment. And there are some others that are being built where it's more of a longer home, has a garage off the laneway in the back, but they put an apartment above that garage, which separates it from the house. So those are purpose built that are happening now. And then the third option, which I'm seeing more often as well from investors, is what is called a duplex conversion. And that's where you take a single family home, you look for one specifically that works where you can separate the upstairs unit from the basement and then make the basement its own separate dwelling unit. This is something that you have to be aware of what you're looking for specifically. I've done these where you go about, you look at some homes and it has a nice big open basement, but it doesn't have a number of key elements that would allow this to happen. So some key points that I would mention: a separate entrance. If you're looking for a single family home, think about how would you get down to the basement without having to go through the main floor. You need a clear portion to be able to separate it. Often that side entrance that you'll see that goes straight downstairs, that's where you can put a wall, separate the upstairs from the downstairs. The other thing would be ceiling heights. Depending on the age of the home, some ceiling heights were quite low, and there is a minimum standard to meet code. So those is something else you want to look at. And then of course, things like egress windows. You need a means of escape from a basement. And this is of course all for a legal basement apartment. And so if you're looking at something like that, this is a fantastic opportunity for those that aren't able to get into single family homes on their own. It's prohibited because of the pricing and as well as the interest rates. You put it all together, they just can't afford it. But as soon as you add an apartment in there, suddenly you have that rental income that will help pay off that mortgage and help you carry it over the long term. And one added benefit of that is many banks and lenders will potentially be able to utilize that rental income to help you qualify for the mortgage. And so it helps you in terms of the actual monthly payment, but it helps you even get into the home. So these are things that you're going to want to consider. And it's an opportunity that I see happening more and more. And the other thing to consider from there is how much can you get for basement apartments? In Trenton, Belleville areas, if you're going to be trying to rent out a basement apartment that has been done well, legally, nice finishes, I would personally use around $1,600 as the base number. And from there, you'll be able to get a good idea. There are some where you can get a little bit more. If it's small, you might be getting a little bit less, but that would be kind of an average number that I would use. And the other thing to consider that I didn't mention was parking. Many people look at these homes and they think it's a perfect opportunity because, well, you can put a basement apartment in there. Well, understand that depending on where it is, the tenants will need a place to park. And while it is legal to have tandem parking, so one behind the other, that is not really feasible for daily living. And so always looking for a place where you can allow extra parking side by side, that is another key element. So we've talked about single family homes and then the option of adding a basement apartment in there. And that was for people that want to live in the units. What about for those that don't want to live in it? They just want to invest in this area and buy, whether it be a duplex, triplex, fourplex. There is a desperate need for that in this area. The vacancy rate in Belleville, Trenton, surrounding areas has been sitting over the last year around 2.5%. It's been a problem all across Ontario, really, that there are not enough rentals available. And so I would always put it as the more units you have, you do increase your risk. Of course, these are tenants that you have to deal with, and the idea is to get a good tenant that pays, but there's always risk that a tenant doesn't pay. But the more units you have, it provides a buffer, an element of safety. And so if you buy that single family home and convert it to a duplex, you now have an income from upstairs and an income from downstairs. We talked about downstairs, you can get around that $1,600 mark, and then upstairs you can get more than that. Depending on the quality of the unit, you can get upwards of around $2,000. And so you have an element of safety. Now, I always say risk versus reward. If you get a triplex, a fourplex, there is higher risk, but you also are increasing your overall cash flow. And if you put that together with the vacancy rates, it's fairly easy to fill those apartments because I said there is a desperate need in this area. And so there aren't as many that have come up because more investors are coming here now, but there are a lot of conversion opportunities here. So finding a home, getting involved with a contractor, and then trying to convert and create more apartments. Our market desperately needs that. And speaking of tenants, the next question will be, what is supporting a strong rental market in this area? There are many aspects. I mentioned earlier about the industry because we're on Highway 401. The first one that I see is you've got CFB Trenton. That's the largest Air Force base in Canada that's located in Trenton. Many people are coming in and out. There is military housing available for them, but the wait lists are extremely long now. They do not have enough housing. And unfortunately, the housing prices have gotten so high that many are being priced out of that market, which then opens up the rental market. And so they have a very steady income. I personally know many military that rent, and they're generally always very good tenants, very respectful. And so that is one pool that will not be going away, and they desperately need places to rent. The next pool of people that are going to be looking to rent are all those that are, of course, new to this area. I mentioned that a lot of people are migrating from the GTA and other areas to our portion of Ontario, and many of them are not in a position where they want to buy right away. So they will come here and they will look to rent an apartment, and then they will actively look at where they want to buy. And in many aspects, they'll actually be looking for securing the job, long-term jobs, so they can get the lender option as well for buying a home. And so we have a lot of that activity coming into this area, which helps support that rental market that much more. And the last type of tenant that will generally always be available in this area are students. You've probably heard throughout Ontario on the news that student housing has been in very low supply, and that remains true as well for Belleville. We have Loyalist College, which is just on the outskirts of Belleville, and they do not have enough student housing. And so these students have to go out into the city. This is a great opportunity. I'd say it falls into the high risk, high reward category, specifically because students are very transient. But the opportunity being that you can rent out individual rooms. So if you get a single family home that has 5 bedrooms, you can rent out those 5 bedrooms and you can increase the overall cash flow. Now, one thing I would caution is property management. If you are not here to manage the property yourself, you have to use a property management company. And many in this area do not look after student rentals. And so as you're looking at that as an investment strategy, well, we desperately need it in this area. We need more student housing. You have to be able to manage it properly. And so you want to do your research first, talk to people in the area, and get a plan together. So those are some of the investment strategies that I would say are available in this area. If you have not yet subscribed, as I said, go through, look at my other videos, learn this area, understand the market a little bit more. And if after that and watching this video you have more questions, feel free to reach out. Jeremy Tremblay is my name, my email, my number are down below. Till next time.